Okay, so today I'm going to demo drawing a Jenga tower in 1-point perspective. And I've got my tools out here. I've got a kneaded eraser and a mechanical eraser. I've got a couple of sharp pencils ready to go. I've got 2 triangles and I've got my ruler. Okay, so to get started, I want to be thinking about where I want my Jenga tower to fit on the page, somewhere here in the middle. So I want to consider where my eye level is. I want to consider where my line of sight is. I don't want to have just the front view of the Jenga tower because that's not even in perspective at all, right? And so I want to see the side at least. And we could consider whether or not we draw it below us or above us technically. But I think what I'm going to go for today is a view where I can see the 2 sides. So my eye level is going to be somewhere in the middle of the Jenga tower, and my line of sight is going to be somewhere to the left. And I think that'll give me room to make a really nice drawing. So to start, I'm going to mark 1 inch from the edge of my paper here, low, and then I'll come up here high and also mark 1 inch, and we'll call this my line of sight. In fact, I'll label that LOS, line of sight. Okay. We also need an eye level, and I'm going to put my eye level somewhere in the middle of the page. And there's a couple reasons why I'm going to do that. I want enough room so that my Jenga tower can go above the eye level, but I'm also going to need to put a measuring point somewhere here that's got to be 45 degrees from my station point. And if I put my eye level too high, that's going to put my measuring point off the page. And for today's drawing, I want to keep my measuring point on the page. So I think I'll come down about 7 inches for my eye level. So I'm putting a dot here at 7 inches. And then I'm going to come over here and also put a dot at 7 inches. And I'll connect those dots, and that'll give me my eye level / horizon line. And so what we've just done, if you imagine the eraser is the viewer's head, we've said the viewer is viewing this world from right here. So everything over here is to the right. Anything above is above the viewer or below the viewer when you come below this eye level. So again, I'm going to put, I'll call this the eye level, my line of sight, and that also in 1-point perspective gives me my VP, my vanishing point is where those 2 intersect. So the next thing we got to decide is how far away is the viewer. Well, I want the viewer to be as far away as possible because that's going to give me a better cone of vision. And so I'm going to come clear down here to the bottom of the page. And where those 2 intersect is going to be my station point. I got to put this back so I can get my 45-degree measuring point here. Okay. And where that intersects, this is going to be my measuring point. So what we're saying by setting it up this way, the viewer is this far away from the scene, and that means all the 90-degree angles that are moving away from us will go to this vanishing point, and all the 45-degree angles moving away from us will be going to this vanishing point, which will help us figure out the top and the bottom of our Jenga tower. Okay, so we're all set up here. I could draw this in, I'm not going to today. but if we come about 30 degrees from our vanishing, or from our station point, the part of our drawing that's inside of this cone of vision is going to be less distorted. We're going to have some of our drawing outside of it, but most of our drawing should work really well. Okay, so we just want to be aware of that. So the next thing I need to decide is, where is the bottom of my Jenga tower going to start? I need to take it and put it into this world. And so we call this the ground measuring line. And I want it to be probably a little over half below the eye level. And we're going to make a 10-inch Jenga tower. And so if 10 inches is here, if I put the bottom here, that looks pretty good because that'll give me some height. Okay, so I'm going to come about here, and this is arbitrary. I'm just deciding I want it to be down here, and that'll give me plenty of room to draw. Okay, and I need to put a horizontal line across the bottom here. I haven't decided where exactly I'm going to put the tower yet. Somewhere in this area. So I could actually say, well, if I start here, I've got a nice ruler on this triangle, so that's convenient. And so if I put a dot at the 6, and then a dot at the 3, and then at the 4, and then at the 5, this will be the bottom of my Jenga tower, and we'll build it up from here. Okay. And so this line I put down, this is my ground measuring line, and I just established this is the scale of the drawing as long as I don't move forwards or backwards. Anything that's this far away I can measure, and it'll be exactly the same scale. Okay, and that'll come in handy when we go vertical with it. But to get started with this, I actually want to put the footprint down first in perspective. Even though we won't be seeing it, it'll help me to measure and figure out where different things are in perspective. So our first step is to kind of draw this footprint. And so I'm going to draw the outside edge and these walls that are moving away from us. If we follow the logic of 1-point perspective, any line moving away has to go to the vanishing point. Okay, and I don't know quite where it's going to end, so I just went where I knew it would be far enough. That's part of why we have to figure out the bottom. Okay, so here's the outside edge. This is also going to be going back to the vanishing point. Okay, and then to find the back, the footprint is an actual square. It's a 3x3 square. We know what 3 inches is this way, but we can't measure that in perspective because it'll be shrinking as it's moving away. But a square can be divided by a 45-degree line, and since we have a 45-degree measuring point, I can very lightly draw a line from this corner to that 45-degree measuring point. And that is where a square would actually end. So if we took this line and just moved it over there, that's how short it would be in perspective. Okay, and I'm going to zoom in here. Where this little cross is, this is the back of my box. And then the logic of 1-point perspective says that this corner has to be perfectly horizontal. And so if I bring my triangle over, very carefully line that up. Make sure I get right on that spot. This is the back of my box. And so this is where the back of the box will start to come up in just a minute, okay? All right. The other thing that I need to figure out, the front's easy. The columns are 1 inch apart, but the side also has columns on a Jenga tower, but they're each going to get smaller as they go back. So the way that I figure that out, if I go from where the columns are in the front back to the vanishing point, very lightly, because these aren't going to be in the final drawing. But this is a square. And so if I come perfectly horizontal this way, that'll tell me where the first column should be. And then I can do that same thing here. And where this line hits and comes straight over, this is also a square geometrically. So now, if I come over here, make sure I'm right on that X. Now I know exactly where that first column's gonna go up. And then if I do that again, right here. Oh, I need to move back slightly. The more precise you are now, the less problems you run into later. So I'm trying to be really careful. I want to make sure I'm right on that cross. And now I've got my front, middle, and back section all divided up, ready to go. Okay, so the next step is going to be pretty boring. We just need to draw the front of our Jenga tower. And that means we need vertical lines coming straight up from these corners. To do that, I'm going to use my triangle here and put it right on that corner. And I'm using the 90-degree angle here to help me get that perfectly vertical. I need to adjust this slightly. But we want this as vertical as we can get it. So I've got that started. And then this is obviously not going to be tall enough, but I have a good enough start here that I can put the bottom of my ruler down here and just line it up exactly on that line. And I can take this line all the way up to 10 inches, okay? And I'm gonna put a little dot here at 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. And that way I know where each of my rows coming over are gonna be. I'm gonna repeat that step on the left side. So again, I'm gonna get this as close to perfectly vertical as I can, get it right on that corner. And come up. And then take my ruler, get it right on there, line it up exactly, as precise as I can make it. Okay, and take this line also up to 10 inches. Okay, and then I can mark it at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. And if I've done this right, it should still be 3 inches at the top, right? Because the bottom's 3 inches. The top should also be 3 inches. Looks good. And since I've already done all these lines, I can just connect the dots here for a minute. So here's the line coming across the top, and then here's the top row, and we'll do that all the way down. And these will create our rows. When I set this up, I intentionally made sure that my rows didn't land perfectly on the eye level. That'll just save some confusion later when we're subtracting out lines. It's a little tedious, but I want to be careful and patient and just make sure I do a really good job here. Okay, so I've got that. Now we're missing something still. A Jenga tower is made up of overlapping rows of 3 bars. And so we need some columns here too. It occurs to me that we don't need to put them all in. I'm just gonna measure this 1 inch here and another inch right at the 2 inches. And then I've already got them divided at the bottom, so I can connect these. But I think what I'm gonna do, just to save me the headache of having to erase later, we're only gonna see the columns on every other row. So I'm gonna skip the first row and put in a line, skip that row, put in a line, and we'll just put these every other, just to keep the drawing a little bit cleaner. Okay, and then do that again over here. And I just need to make sure I remember where I started. So I started on the second row. So again, we'll alternate. Nice. Okay, so there's the front of my Jenga tower. Now we need to come over here and work on this side. And I'm going to start by drawing the top of the box as it's moving away. So this orthogonal line from the top corner coming to the vanishing point. I don't know exactly where it ends yet. I have the information. I could just go perfectly vertical from this point, but the problem is my triangles are a little bit small and it's hard to get one that goes all the way down. And so I'm gonna make a little bit more work for myself, but it's gonna help me be a little bit more accurate. But I can use my measuring point on the top, just like we did on the bottom. And so I'm gonna go ahead and do that. And in order to do that, I also need to, even though we wouldn't see this, this is the back edge of the top of the box. That line is going to be coming to the vanishing point. And then if I go to my 45-degree measuring point, from the front of the box to that measuring point backwards, that'll tell me where the back of my box is. And I don't quite trust that line yet. There we go. Okay. So again, the back of my box is going to be right there. Okay. And so if I get my triangle from here and I go straight horizontal, remember every line that's a part of the finished drawing is going to go perfectly vertical, perfectly horizontal, or to a vanishing point. And that needs to be just a touch lower. So I'm going to move it, double check it, and then we're going to trust that one. Okay. Now theoretically, we're human. We have a little bit of error, but if I've done this right and I've been careful enough, if I connect this corner with that corner, that should be a perfectly vertical line. And we're going to trust it. I'm comparing with my eye. that it should be perfectly parallel with that one, and I think it is. So now we can draw the back of our tower. And then I also can make these perfectly vertical, but just to save myself having to make sure it's perfectly vertical, I'm gonna give myself some dots here to help make that determination. So if I go from this line back, and then from this line back, oop, my ruler adjusted a little bit. But, so now that we've divided this, I should be able to bring this one, this line over, that. I guess technically it wouldn't go past that line. We may need this later when we're drawing, and so I don't want to erase anything that's going to be helpful. Okay. And that one would go there. And so now I can see exactly where that first one should end and that second one should end. And the third one I've already drawn. But I can take those lines now and drop them down. I think before I do that though, just like we did here to save some time, remember the columns are gonna go on all of them, just on every other, but all of the rows will be there. So let's go ahead real quickly and complete the rows first, and then we'll drop in the columns. And you'll notice something interesting happens. This is the pattern that works with perspective. But as I move my way up towards the eye level, with each row, my ruler gets flatter and flatter and flatter. So every time it's just closer to being parallel with the horizon line. Now we're getting really close to parallel. And then once we cross the eye level, instead of tipping up, they start to tip down, and that's really important. That's why we want to know where the eye level is. There's that problem that we have when we know things, we try to draw what we know instead of what we actually see. And we know that this Jenga tower actually has a top, but we can't see it because it's above our eye level, kind of like a tall building, right? Based on where we put it. And so if you're walking down the street, you can't see the tops of buildings because of the way perspective works. And so I want to make sure that I'm getting that in my drawing. And I don't know that we've done that a lot yet, right? With the Rubik's Cube and the checkerboard, we drew them both below our eye level. And so this is the first time where we're actually drawing above and below our eye level. Okay. But it's starting to look believable, right? And so now we're gonna complete this Jenga tower. And since I did 3 on this row, I'll start with the 3 at the top this time. So I'll see the column on the first block, then skip. And then skip, and then skip, and then skip, right? So I have 3 going this way, and then I'll have 3 going that way. I need to do that one more time for this other column that we already figured out. So I'm using this line to determine where it should fall. So again, right from the top, there's one, skip, another, skip, another, and skip, another, skip. And there we have it. So it's not done yet, but we have the bones of this drawing. And so I'm gonna make another video where we're gonna talk about, for this assignment, you're gonna be removing 5 of these blocks. And we're referring to those 5 skills that you can do with a cube, where you punch a hole through them or you stack them and kind of figure out how they would look like when they were stacked or with holes going through. And we'll do that by removing some of these pieces. So we might take away one of these and one of these on the side or something. We'll play around with that for a minute to finish this Jenga tower and then clean up the line quality, but that'll be in the next video.